All right, Purdue's rolling right now after the rivalry win at Assembly Hall earlier this week. They take their talents to Iowa City to take on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Anytime you have back-to-back road games in conference play, that's a dangerous schedule spot. This is the first time this has happened to Purdue this season. With that said, Iowa's not normal Iowa. If you haven't watched them much this year, low on star power compared to usual. They have been very good at home, other than dropping a very random game to my Michigan Wolverines. Outside of that, they have not lost a game at home this year. But is this a trappy spot for Purdue at all?
Um, no, not in my. I mean, if Iowa played any semblance of defense, maybe. But I just think Zach Edey's going to eat all day. Iowa can't stop teams from scoring inside. Zach Edey has at least half a foot on every single player on this Iowa roster. Um, and I understand the back to back road games and it plays out more often than not, but I still think in order to beat Purdue, you have to kind of try and play defense. And Iowa just doesn't do that.
Yeah, they don't. And they are not formidable whatsoever. Like Cricky is, or Cricky, however you say it, great offensive player, not a defensive big at all. One development that has worked for Iowa has been that they have inserted Owen Freeman, the freshman, into two big lineups. He's been pretty good. I think he's their best defensive big. He's likely going to win freshman of the year in the Big Ten, but I don't know that he's ready for a test like Zach Edey. This kind of feels like Zach Edey could play with his food a little bit with the Iowa bigs.
Yeah, it's one thing to insert a, you know, to just throw bodies at Edie. But that's really what you teams have been trying to do. With Freeman, it's I just question whether, and I understand he has half a season under his belt now, but I just question whether he has the experience to defend Edie effectively without fouling. And that's the trade-off, right? Like it's going to be one or the other. Either Edie's going to get to the line a ton, which he might anyways, or he's gonna get a lot of good looks, depending on who's defending him. So, uh, Purdue's front court is a huge advantage over Iowa. Their backcourt might not be as long as Iowa's backcourt is, 1 through 3, but I still think I would take Purdue's backcourt over Iowa's as well on both ends of the floor. Offensively, Iowa's backcourt's been pretty good, but um, I don't know if they can stop the 3 guard lineup that Purdue throws out there to start games.
Yeah, I don't think Iowa doesn't really have individual answers at any of these spots where you're going to feel like that's a good matchup for Iowa. Other than maybe like, could they space Edie out a little bit offensively? Possibly. That would require them to go small and stick Freeman on the bench, which is what I think this game's going to end up doing. Like, I think it's going to be apparent very quickly Freeman can't guard Edie, so they got to try to make him pay with the smaller bigs that can shoot a little bit. But it's very much been like a sum of their parts team for Iowa this year. Like, they do have balance. They do have a lot of different guys that can contribute. They're at their best when like 6 different guys give you 10 points in a game. And that's happened the last couple of games. If you go to their win at Minnesota, road win, good win against a Minnesota team that's playing pretty well. Cricky had 25, Josh Dix had 21, and then Perkins and Freeman were alongside them in double figures. The game before it at home against Nebraska, they had 6 players in double figures, the same ones I just mentioned, plus Tony Perkins and Peyton Sanford and Patrick McCaffrey. So this is, I don't know. It's a team that I think is always comfortable at home. Like I don't think Iowa's going to struggle to score the basketball in this game. It's just, can they score enough to keep up with pretty much an automatic 2 every time Purdue wants it?
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is I don't think so. You mentioned Iowa spreads the ball out a ton. They have 3 very capable uh, point guards that can all jump in and contribute. I understand Brock Harding turns the ball over more than you would want him to, but Tony Perkins and Bowen, both really capable with the ball in their hands, distribute it well, don't really turn the ball over. And So offensively, I think Iowa can score enough to maybe put pressure on Purdue to keep up their scoring. But at the end of the day, I think Purdue's going to be able to get stops, and I just don't see that happening enough from Iowa for them to win this game.
Yeah. So this is actually the second time these teams have played this year. Purdue beat Iowa by 19 points in Mackey. That included Iowa winning the final 10 minutes of the game by 11. So like Purdue was up 30 with minutes left of this game. In that game, Zach Edey dominant, 9 for 10 from the floor, 25 points. Braden Smith only had 2 points, 8 assists to 1 turnover though in 25 minutes. Nobody on the Purdue team played more than 25 minutes, so it was very much like a we can coast without needing our anybody to do anything crazy. I've had a dialogue with Purdue fans this week on Braden Smith. I want to pick your brain on. I was hosting Field of 68 After Dark, and in the vaulted, like, bold prediction segment of the show, I said, Purdue will not make a Final Four. I've seen enough from Braden Smith. I think there's still some demons. I think he has kind of, now it's 3 straight games in the rivalry game against Indiana. He hasn't been able to score the basketball. He's a much more dangerous guy when he's doing what he did in the non-conference against Arizona and Alabama when he's getting 20 points and 6 assists to go with it. He's a lot less dangerous, and Purdue's a lot less dangerous when they don't need him to score. That's how I feel. Do you think that that's an unfair take? Because Purdue fans are very upset with me for that.
I'll flip it on you, Greg. Braden Smith is a top blank point guard.
We're doing this again. Well, here's my thing, man. Like, I believe talent-wise, Braden Smith is a top 5 point guard in the country. But for the same reasons, like, I'm complaining that Tyler Kolek keeps putting up stinkers, or I'm complaining that Kylan Boswell went for 0 and 0. Like, great point guards should not score single digits over half of their Big Ten games. And he's played 27 games in conference play in a season and a half, and 60% of the time he scores in single figures. Like, it happened last year. It's happening this year. He's now back-to-back games with 6 points and 5 points. You can say the Indiana game, he just missed shots. That doesn't make it any better for him that he's missing shots. But there's a lot of games where he doesn't even need to shoot the ball. And give Purdue credit, they can win without him shooting the ball. But I don't know. I don't think those type of games where Braden Smith is just coasting are helping prepare them for what is inevitably going to come in March.
Not saying you don't. Do you feel the same way about Kansas with DeJuan Harris?
Yeah, I think we've made that very polarizing in the past. Like, I want DeJuan Harris to score, and he just chooses not to a lot of the time, you know?
Because Braden Smith scored in single digits the past 2 games, but he also averaged 10 assists. Yeah. So I think you need him to be a threat to score more than you need him to actually score, in my opinion, if that makes sense. Like, we know Braden Smith can score. And if the reason he's not taking shots, or if the reason he's not making shots is because they're putting a ton of pressure on him to pass, they're playing him to pass, then I think that you can win those games. I mean, it's similar to Kansas State last year on their run, where they were, when Noel was being played to pass, meaning like when the defenses were forcing him to pass, he could score, but they were just as efficient offensively when he was forced to pass, and I think that was a mistake. I tend to think that that's kind of what's going on here. Like, what we saw at the end of the Northwestern game, notwithstanding, I think we've seen an improvement from Braden Smith, especially at the end of games. But I agree with you. I think if it becomes an issue where he's not a threat to score, then Purdue can't make a Final Four. But if it's just he needs to score in double digits, I don't know if I necessarily agree, because I think a lot of the issue is that, like, he's a threat to score, but so is Fletcher Loyer. So is Jones. So is Edey. So you have to balance the two things. Like, Purdue has so many weapons where, look, they won those 2 games with him scoring in single digits, and I just think that it's a case of, if he's shooting 5 shots like he did against Penn State, that's one thing. If it's, he's missing a bunch of shots like he did against Indiana, or if he's, at least trying to be a threat to score, that's a different argument entirely. So I don't know if I've seen enough this year to say that, he's not even a threat to score, because we've seen him. He scored what, 26 and 27 against Alabama and Arizona.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's capable. And look, he was aggressive in the Indiana game, so I don't want to sit here and say it's like he's tentative. He's not playing as well as the dual threat point guard that can score and create as he was in the non-conference. I think that's a fact. I don't think that's up for debate. Whether you want to debate whether he's still an asset to the team and controlling the game, he definitely is. He's a great floor general. He's one of the best passers in the country, but he's capable of doing both. And I think in order for Purdue to be their most dangerous, they need him to do both, not just 2-1. So I want to see it. Anyways, what's your prediction here? Like I said, they beat Iowa by 19 in Mackey earlier this season. Ken Pom has the line set at just a 7-point victory here on the road in Carver Hawkeye. What's your prediction?
I'd go over 7. I think Purdue probably wins a high scoring game by between 8 and 12.
Okay. I think this game is very close at halftime. I think Purdue wins big in the second half. I think they win by double digits. But yeah, maybe dicey. Maybe Iowa sticks around for 20 minutes and then falls apart late. Yeah. All right. That's Connor Hope, Heat Check, CBB. I'm GregWaddell, Sleepers Media. Click subscribe so you can see all of our previews and recaps this season.